A young Japanese soldier, just 23 years old, sits hunched in the corner of a prison barracks in rural Kansas. His name is Sergeant Hiroshi Tanaka. Only 3 months earlier, he had been fighting American Marines on a blood-soaked Pacific island. Now, on a sweltering August afternoon in 1943, he's about to experience something that will shake his beliefs about America more than any propaganda leaflet ever could. The mess hall bell clangs across the compound. Tanaka shuffles into line with hundreds of other prisoners, bracing himself for what he assumes will be the usual: thin gruel, stale bread, the bare minimum. After all, this is war, and prisoners don't expect comfort. But when the American mess sergeant slides a metal tray toward him, Tanaka freezes. On it sits a steaming portion of beef stew, fresh vegetables glistening under the lights, a glass of cold milk, crisp bread rolls, and impossibly, a small bowl of vanilla ice cream. Real ice cream, condensation beating on the sides. For a moment, Tanaka can't move. In wartime Japan, even generals rarely tasted such luxuries. Yet here he was, a captured enemy, being served dessert. This was the beginning of one of World War II's most overlooked cultural shocks. Japanese prisoners discovering that their captors lived in such abundance that even their enemies ate better than ordinary Japanese citizens. To understand the scale of this shock, we need to step back to December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor. By then, Japan had already been at war for a decade, first in Manchuria, then in China. Japanese society had been transformed into a machine of sacrifice and scarcity. Civilians survived on meager rations, barely 1,800 calories a day when they were lucky. Rice was so scarce it was mixed with bark and sawdust. Sugar was gone. Meat was almost non-existent. Soldiers lived little better, subsisting on rice, vegetables, and occasional fish. Dairy products, milk, butter, cheese, ice cream, were virtually unknown. America, meanwhile, was also at war, but its sacrifices looked entirely different. Yes, there was rationing, sugar, coffee, gasoline, certain cuts of meat. Victory gardens sprang up in backyards. But even these restrictions operated on a scale of plenty the Japanese could hardly imagine. American families might complain about margarine instead of butter, or 2 pounds of sugar a month, while most Japanese families hadn't seen refined sugar in years. This wasn't just about food. It revealed two philosophies of war. Japan demanded total sacrifice, channeling everything to the front lines. America, by contrast, understood that abundance was a weapon too. Factories produced not only tanks and bombers, but also consumer goods to keep morale high. Ice cream production, almost unbelievably, actually increased. The Navy even built a floating ice cream barge in the Pacific. For Japanese prisoners, capture itself was unthinkable. Their culture saw surrender as shameful, worse than death. Most fought to the last bullet, some even taking their own lives rather than submit. Those who did survive often woke in American hospitals, fully expecting torture. Instead, they were treated by medics, given food, and transported in clean passenger trains with cushioned seats, an experience unimaginable compared to how Axis powers treated their captives. But it was the camps themselves that delivered the greatest shock. By the end of the war, America was holding over 425,000 prisoners, mostly Germans, with Japanese making up a smaller but significant group. Camps were scattered across the American heartland: Kansas, Texas, Colorado, Arkansas, often near vast farms. Prisoners arrived expecting brutality. What they found were clean barracks with bunks, mattresses, blankets, and lockers. Compared to disease-ridden Japanese barracks, it felt almost luxurious. And then came the food. Under Geneva Convention rules, prisoners were fed the same rations as American soldiers. But American soldiers ate far better than Japanese officers. Daily meals included meat, vegetables, eggs, butter, cheese, and bread soft enough to compress in one hand. Fresh milk appeared at every meal. For men who had never tasted it, the shock was indescribable. And above all, there was ice cream. For Japanese raised in scarcity, where every grain of rice was precious, being handed a bowl of sweet, cold ice cream by their enemies was almost incomprehensible. Prisoners couldn't believe that Americans considered it ordinary, even essential. The shock didn't end there. Prison canteens sold cigarettes, chocolate, and sometimes even beer and ice cream, all purchased with wages prisoners earned through camp labor. Many couldn't finish their meals, their stomachs too small from years of near starvation. Medical records showed Japanese prisoners often gained 20 to 30 pounds in their first year in captivity. When reports of these conditions filtered back to Japan through Red Cross inspections and prisoner exchanges, many in Tokyo dismissed them as propaganda. Ice cream for prisoners? Impossible. But the truth could not be denied. Even Japanese officers at home were eating less than their captured men. For Japanese military planners, this realization was chilling. If America could afford to feed prisoners luxuries their own citizens had forgotten, what did that say about American strength? How could Japan hope to defeat a nation so wealthy, so abundant, that it treated even its enemies better than Japan treated its own loyal soldiers? In the end, the ice cream in American camps wasn't just dessert. It was a symbol, a scoop of cold, sweet proof that Japan was fighting an enemy whose power went far beyond the battlefield.